that while we present, people can just use a chat box to say hello, who you are, and if you have visited a wetland before, and what did you find remarkable about that wetland, just let us know in the chat box. And also, if you have, can you let us know what are you doing to protect those wetlands? What conservation actions are you taking in place? Are you taking yourself and your family to protect those wild spaces? So we can start now, Nicole.
Awesome. So I will share my screen. Give me 1 sec. Oh, hold on 2 seconds.
I think this.
I got it. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, here we go.
Right, so like I mentioned before, today is we're celebrating World Wetlands Day, which we celebrate every second day of February. This is a special day that was born thanks to the actions of very the group of environmentalists back in the 60s and 70s, when the environmental movement was really strong. So they advocated for the protection, conservation of this important habitats, and also acknowledging the great benefits to communities and the world as a whole. So let's start by defining a wetland. We go to the next slide, Nicole, please. Nicole. There you go. So we will define wetlands. There are many definitions. They're more or less the same, but the most widely accepted and it's broadly defined and most used by governments and organizations is the Ramsar definition of wetlands. Ramsar comes from the Ramsar Convention for the Protection of Wetlands, which we will talk later in this presentation. But as they define it, is the areas of marsh, fen, peat, and or water, whether natural, artificial, permanent, or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish, or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which low tide does not exceed 6 meters. It sounds a little bit complicated, but in that definition, they try to encompass many different types of wetlands or habitats and define them as wetlands. We go click again. One more time. And this is how the government of Canada defines it, a little bit more simple, more elegant, and probably like easy to understand. And they say is wetlands are submerged or permeated by water, either permanently or temporarily, and are characterized by plants adapted to saturated soil conditions. Wetlands include fresh and saltwater marshes, wooded swamps, bogs, seasonally flooded forests, sloughs, any land area that can keep water long enough to let plants and soils develop. So, like I said, the definition and the classification of wetlands is very diverse, but what we can say in basic terms is where water is wetlands are the interface between water and land. I go to the next. So what types of wetlands, what are the types of wetlands? So basically we have 5, like in general terms, 5 types of wetlands and one extra additional category. So the So the 5 natural and 1 this is man-made, and man-made can be rice paddies or agricultural fields or even wetlands for wastewater management. Those are also considered wetlands, man-made structures. But the another category is palustrine, and which is what we when we think about the swamps and marshes, that's those are called palustrine. Go to the next. That's a swamp, I believe somewhere down in the US. Riverine are wetlands associated with rivers, obviously, and like fringing the rivers and all the vegetation subjected to the water table. Those are riverine wetlands. That's Pantanal in Brazil. And that's a typical vegetation. Estuarine is where the fresh water meets the salt water, creating a brackish environment. And typical of those are mangrove areas, like mangroves are one type of wetland. It's very common in tropical areas. And also deltas, like we know we have a delta just right here in our home in Vancouver. That's a very important area, especially for birds, yeah, they contain a lot of wildlife and invertebrates as well. Then another type is lacustrine, and those are wetlands associated to lakes. We go to the next. And then, like if you remember the definition of the Ramsar Convention, they say even marine environments can be considered as wetlands, and this includes shoreline vegetation close to the sea, and even coral reefs. And here I want to just put a pause and just to let you know, just to exemplify that everything is connected here. All the wetlands, the rainforests, and all the water and sediment that comes down from forest or rainforest go down and get filtered out in those coastal wetlands, and the remaining sediment goes to the next stage, and that's seagrass beds. So that nothing. The next level would be the coral reefs, and the coral reef, the water is completely crystal clear. So, and that's why corals are able to live. If there's a sediment in the water, they will die immediately. That's how they work, and that's how everything is connected. We go to the next. So, what are the benefits of the wetlands? Wetlands are important because of the physical geographical conditions. They can be shallow, relatively shallow areas that catch a lot of sediment and a lot of nutrients, and that creates the conditions to create more food for creatures, for invertebrates, and vertebrates are eaten by bigger organisms, probably invertebrates, like insects, and then those insects are eaten by fish or by birds, and it gets really complex. There's a oversupply of food, and wetlands can be considered as supermarkets because of this condition. Also, wetlands are good at maintaining the groundwater levels and also filtering any contaminants or pollutants, just keeping the drinking water safe. And like I said, even pollutants coming from inland, from up in the hills and the mountains, can be filtered out by wetlands. Especially, they have special abilities to retain sediment that it's been carried by rivers and creeks. Also nutrients, and this is they also all the sediment and nutrient stays at the bottom of the wetland, and also toxic substances. They are able to filter out all those three sediments and substances. That's why, given this ability, the wetlands are considered the kidneys of the planet. Just as the forests are considered the lungs, wetlands are the kidneys of the planet. The next would be they are important because they produce a lot of food. Like I said, because of their characteristics, they produce a lot of food for other creatures, and they also are very important nursery grounds for many fish species, or nesting grounds for birds. And also they are very important. They provide food and resources like fuel wood, and transportation opportunities for human populations. They also important in agriculture, drinking water. Like the benefits are limitless. Also, they're important because they provide tourism, recreation, and appreciation opportunities. Think of, for example, when you go in that kayak trip in a lake, or you go fishing, or you even go diving, you're using a wetland for your recreation. And also wetlands are very, very important in the climate regulation, because they are able to sequester, and this is absorbing some of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. How does that work, you might ask? Well, there's a lot of vegetation that the wetlands support. That vegetation, obviously, like the plants, the way they produce their food is by photosynthesis, and this is absorbing the sunlight, and also absorbing some of the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And that's what they use to build tissues of the plant. And then once the plant dies, it goes at the bottom of the wetland, where it is broken down by microorganisms into smaller pieces, smaller compounds, and that goes in different directions, and different is available to other organisms and other plants. And also there is a cultural importance that is also relevant to many communities who are using wetlands, and that wetlands gives them a sense of place, a sense of belonging, and an identity. And yeah, we can go to the next, Nicole. So where are the wetlands? That's our next question. Wetlands, and you have to pardon me for such a low resolution image. I couldn't find a better resolution, but I thought the map depicted a really good depicted wetlands in a really good way, very useful. And you can see that they are pretty much everywhere. And I think the map is not still not complete. There are many of wetlands that we can't see. They're just too small to see. But they are everywhere, and pretty much in every continent. You can go to the next, Nicole, please. Even here, where the largest wetland is not what you would expect. Click. It's right there. It's in Antarctica. And this is the these are some iconic examples of wetlands in our planet. And this is the Okavango Delta in Botswana. This is a very special type of wetland because of the wetland is in the technical term is in the rake, which means it doesn't end in the sea. It's just like in this open area where there's no sea. And then the wetlands in Cambodia are also very important in Asia in general. And click. And this is the famous Camargue in France, and the very pretty pink flamingos. And click again. And this is the I guess like the second or probably the largest tropical wetland in the world. This is the Brazilian Pantanal, which was in fire last year for several weeks. And then the Pantanal went from being carbon sink, like capturing all the carbon, to actually expelling all the carbon in form of the carbon dioxide from the fires, and as well as some other greenhouse gases. And that's the problem of disturbed wetlands. They can actually be counterproductive in climate regulation once intervened. And click. And this is the Ciénaga de Santa Marta in Colombia. Also a very important wetland in South America. Let's click again. And the famous Florida Everglades in the US. Let's go to the next. So we spoke about the Ramsar Convention. So what is the Ramsar Convention? And this is the long name is the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands of International Importance, especially as watchful habitat, as you see it. This was also implemented back in the 70s, although it was conceived in the 60s. Like I mentioned before, the 60s, 70s was like a renaissance, you could say, of the environmental movements. And it was enacted in the 71, and this is a global instrument for the probably one of the first and most significant global instrument for the conservation of wetlands worldwide, and then makes countries responsible for the protection of their wetlands. Usually they convene every 3 years. And countries can propose candidate wetlands to be included in the Ramsar list of protected wetlands. Obviously, they have to fill out the form, and they have to provide evidence of the qualities of the wetland, and that is important to protect internationally. Some fun facts here: the Ramsar site, the countries with the most Ramsar sites is the United Kingdom and also Mexico, I believe, with 142 Ramsar sites. And the country with most Ramsar sites in terms of area, it's Bolivia. Bolivia, doesn't count the Salar de Uyuni, which is the salt flats. They're in the Andes, I believe, which are under threat right now, with companies wanting to mine it for lithium, and lithium is the main ingredient for our the batteries in our electric vehicles. So that's why there's a high demand of electric vehicles. They need batteries, and batteries. They need lithium, and lithium comes from mudflats, from wetland, basically. And next. So how about Canada? Canada is a big country, and as a big country also contains a lot of wetlands. 13% of the Canadian surface is covered by wetlands. Most of them are concentrated around the Hudson Basin and the Boreal Shield. but the trend, as most countries, is that wetlands are disappearing in Canada. Obviously, it's still a very big area. Canada contains like 25% of the wetlands of the world in terms of area. It's still a lot, but the trend is the same. It's been replaced by agricultural fields, by industrial areas, and urbanization. However, there's a few instruments in place, and one of them, obviously, the Canadian government tries to protect these wetlands, and there's a few instruments in place to protect the wetlands, and one of them is implemented in conjunction with the United States. It's called the North American Waterfowl Management Plan, and Mexico also joined just a couple of decades ago. So there is a regional effort to protect wetlands in these three countries. And go to the next. So this is our sites, the wetlands at the Maplewood Flats. So in wetlands, we have the Maplewood Flats. It's comprised of like roughly 30 hectares of upland and 96 hectares of mudflats. And what type of wetlands can we see there? As we see the rocky shoreline, we see anemones, for example. We see our ponds. We see where we can see ducks, wood ducks, and mallards, for example. And there is also the marshes. We are surrounded, like fringed by marshes, both sides. And yeah, and we have nearly 80 native plant species, and it is part of the traditional unceded territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, who they use the area for harvesting marine products. As many of you may know or may recall, this area was used for the last maybe 100 years, especially in the 60s and 70s, as an industrial site, especially as a landfill. There was a lot of debris and garden soil and who knows what other things were dumped here in this site. And investigating this situation, or part of this situation, the impact of that disposal of material during that industrial stage of our site, is our external student researcher from Capilano University. His name is Harrison Smith, and he was meant to be here, but for due to some scheduling conflicts, he couldn't make it. But we recorded a few video clips just for him to speak in about our wetlands and the work he does. So especially he was interested in learning about the pollution on like water quality in our wetlands.
So you just got to be very careful when you're entering the wetlands. And when you initially enter, you're going to disturb some of the water and some of the debris around you.
Can people just let me know if they can hear or not? Can anyone hear the audio?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you're going to want to take a little second just to let it all settle. And ideally, the most important thing you got to think about when taking a water sample is to not get too much debris into your cup. So I see a nice little spot here that hasn't been disturbed and there's not a lot of debris around it. So I'd take my cup and I would fully submerge it in the water. I would invert it first and submerge it, and then I would burp it until there's only 1 or 2 centimeters of air left inside the cup. And then while still underwater, I would take the lid of my cup and I would screw it onto the cup and then take it out. And that's just to reduce contaminants possibly around the lip of the cup.
Harrison's Harrison is particular. Is that okay, Nicole?
Sorry, it's just kind of playing automatically. Let me know when you want to play this next video.
Okay, no, I was saying, yeah, Harrison was particularly interested in sampling the water, especially trying to find any pollutants, but everything was fine, except for one thing. He found unusual high levels of copper in the water, and we're not too sure about what the source is. But given that this area was a former industrial site, is not unexpected. So we went in the field, and this is what he was describing: how to take those samples without contaminating the water and the sample. Now he will speak about some of the threats about wetlands, especially in particular. There, just go ahead.
At Wetland 3 again at the Maplewood Flats Conservation Area, and I'm standing over a culvert that actually connects Wetland 3 to Wetland 2, and all of our wetlands are actually connected through a series of intermittent streams and culverts. And I just want to talk a little bit more about why wetlands are threatened, not only on a local scale but also on a global scale. I mean, here in Burrard Inlet, this is one of the last functional wetlands that remains. I mean, pre-contact, they're all over, but now there's only this one. And this one even used to be a dump site. I mean, there's a big hill behind me, which is a debris pile from houses that were torn down on Vancouver and dumped over here in the mid-20th century. And now we're trying to bring this one back. But on a global scale, they're also disappearing quite rapidly. I mean, there's so many people that are migrating to these high functional areas that are very productive, and yeah, the wetlands are just being destroyed, which is really a shame, because not only can they can be so beautiful, but they're also very important to not only our climate, but only to our culture as well. Good.
Yeah, perfect. We can go to the next. Oh, I think we're missing one. Oh, I think we missed one. Anyways, let's go back.
Sorry, Alejandro, which one do you want? Is there 3 videos or is there just 2 videos?
It's 3 videos.
Oh, okay,
So
I might have, yeah, okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, you skip one. Go back.
This one?
No, go back. One
Oh,
more.
okay. Oh, sorry.
Right there.
This is it.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No worries. Sorry, everyone.
At Wetland 3 again at the Maplewood Flats Conservation Area, and I'm standing over a culvert that actually connects Wetland 3 to Wetland 2, and all of our...
Okay, sorry, something's kind of funky is happening. Okay. Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties. Oh, okay, this is it. Yay!
Hi, so we're here at Wetland 1 at the Maplewood Flats Conservation Area, and I just want to take a moment to just appreciate this particular wetland. You know, it's not visible from the trail, and we try to make sure people don't come here. I mean, there's a deer trail that comes along, but we want to make sure there's minimal impact, especially here, because this is one of the coolest wetlands. Some of the coolest experiences I've had on site is there's actually moments where I've been in the water taking my macroinvertebrate samples, and I've had deer just come just within 20 meters of me, just walk right past, not even giving a care. And the first time we came to scope it out, there was actually a raccoon that was scuttling along one of the logs and trying to do a little bit of fishing. And not only that, but we also saw that there were patches of grass all along the wetland that were flattened, and there was this scat there that was very fishy smelling, and there's clear signs of otter habitation as well. And so, it's not just bugs and birds, other mammals, other vertebrates use this as well as humans. And it's very important, just to protect these wetlands as best we can.
All right.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Harrison. That was very good, very thorough. We go to next. The next will be questions. Like, if anyone has questions or like a discussion, can you tell us about why you think is important to protect wetlands, and what you're doing to protect them?
I can start maybe. So here, let me just fix my video. So first of all, thank you, Alejandro. That was really good. So I was raised by stream keepers, I'll say. So my dad and my uncle, more so my uncle, but a little bit my dad, they're stream keepers, and I live on Burnaby Mountain, so just under SFU, and there's a lot of different creeks, and the further you get down towards Burnaby Lake, there's a few ponds, or there used to be. And yeah, like my whole life, I was, always spent it walking up and down the creeks, picking up trash, making sure that they were good. My uncle does a few more things. He does kind of like water samples and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of like what I've been watching this. It's really been fun and almost nostalgic in a way, because all I remember is spending time out in nature and looking at the creeks, and I just have such a huge affinity for wetlands.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and if anyone else wants to share, you can unmute yourself, you can write in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. And if not, no worries at all.
This is Laurel. I'm curious. I heard there was a big wetland area. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, there's a big wetland area that travels maybe even right from downtown area through sort of, it wends and winds its way over to the banks of the Fraser River, but it's all buried at this time.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yep. And Alejandro, you can definitely talk a little more on this, but especially in the neighborhood of Falls Creek, but also Mount Pleasant. There's something like 10 or even more different creeks that are currently covered up that used to run there. And actually I used to live just off of St. George, I think it was, and you can hear the water underneath. It's super loud. It's a huge creek, but unfortunately they put a sewer line right next to it. So the creek goes here and the sewer goes here. And unfortunately, sometimes when the sewer, or when it rains a lot, I don't know if this is for sure or not, but like what my neighbor said is that the sewer, unfortunately, and the water start mixing together, which is pretty sad. But the whole area of Falls Creek, I did my almost like a thesis on this in my undergrad, and the whole area of Falls Creek, from all the way from Main Street, where Science World is, all the way to Clark, and from First Avenue all the way deep into the downtown east side, it used to all be an estuary, a beautiful estuary, huge, almost like a very much marshland. And unfortunately, when settlers first arrived here, to make more room for industry, they basically dredged it and filled it in with soil and dirt. And that's where you get the you know, where the trains run underneath like commercial and kind of towards Renfrew area. That's all the dirt went there. So yeah, I know it is very interesting. And again, sorry Alejandro for speaking over you, but you can
No.
definitely speak more. I just am so passionate about it.
No, I think you know more. I don't know much about the history, like the natural history of the area, but just seeing the geographic characteristics of the Vancouver area is very likely that just before settlement, before the city grew and expanded like that, and this includes the whole metro area and surrounding cities. Richmond in particular, all those flatlands, I'm very sure that before those cities were built, everything was covered in like wetlands and forests, but very likely lots of wetlands.
Yeah, no, thank you. Very good. I didn't catch who it was, but thank you so much. It's a very good thing to bring up because I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. I mean, even for myself, I only learned about that a few years ago and was really surprised. But it makes sense if you look at really old maps of Vancouver, you can see where it kind of goes in. Like there's like almost like little tiny peninsulas, and that's where there used to be a bridge. It was called the Main Street Bridge. And then past that is all this huge body of water, even bigger than what False Creek is now. And it looked beautiful, yeah, but again, it was eventually covered up, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I have to say, like, this is one of the like I mentioned before in the presentation, this the mindset in previous decades or centuries is like seeing wetlands as an undesirable area that needs to be filled up with something and then built on top of it. So and that goes for rivers, for wetlands, for mangroves, everything like chopped down and then like filled with like soil and then build houses and
Totally, yeah.
shopping centers and whatnot.
The things we know now, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the things we know now versus back then is so different, right?
That's right. That's right. I think now, and this is, I think this is key. We need to see wetlands or ecosystems as natural infrastructure, just as like we see bridges that are important, like connecting this side from this side, roads or airports. Wetlands are part of a natural infrastructure. It's like it was evolved for millions of years, and it's like fine-tuned, well-oiled machine, really good at filtering and protecting from protecting the shorelines, protecting from floods, providing food. So yeah, so we have to start thinking as this ecosystems more as an infrastructure and not as something that we don't want.
Totally. Thank you, Laurel. I really appreciate your comment. That was really good.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I've never been to Maplewood Flats. Is that somewhere where the public is allowed and
Yeah.
for like bird photography?
Yeah, no, so it's basically Maplewood Flats is a conservation site. It's located in North Vancouver. We're just about 1.5 kilometers from Second Narrows Bridge, going towards Deep Cove. If you're on Dollarton, once you pass the Stong's Market, you'll see we're on the right-hand side. And I can't remember how many acres, but Alejandro probably knows, but it's quite a big amount of space, and we have walking trails. When you come to park, you'll notice there's another, I think a science lab or something like that. But once you keep walking towards the water, we have quite an extensive amount of trails and woods. And yeah, it's definitely open to the public, and you can take photos or you can just go for a walk. We do ask people obviously not to go on to the flats because it's a conservation site, but it is a really beautiful place just to come and, sightsee, take some time in nature, and it is quite beautiful. And Alejandro, if you want to add anything onto that, definitely.
Yeah, I think you said it. You said it all. I think if she wants peace and quiet, just admire nature, just don't feed the birds.
Yeah.
If you want to bring your family, it's fine. Just don't walk on the mud flats, and yeah, just enjoy, just admire nature. And there are benches you can
Okay.
stop and have a rest, and you can meditate, think. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of nature.
Yeah, and we also have, yes, thank you. And we also have a nature house, and that's also open to the public every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3. And that's where we currently have our members exhibit up. So it's a photography exhibit. So all the photos were taken at Maplewood Flats, which is really cool. And we sell some merch if people are interested, but also just to come and check it out and take a look, because it's a really beautiful space. And yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Nicole and Alejandro, for this excellent presentation. I just had a quick question about something I've noticed in the Lower Mainland forever, since I was a kid, which are dikes. And it just popped into my mind. I was just curious to know what your thoughts are on the impact of dikes on the health or not health of wetlands in this area. Thank you.
No, great question, Michael. Thank you. Alejandro, I'll let you go first because you probably know a little bit more, but I'll say my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in that particular area, but what I can think is that some of those dikes will retain the sediment, and the nutrients are coming from uphill, and those nutrients are critical for feeding the wetlands and the lower lands. So yeah, so I think it would affect the sediments and the nutrients and the hydrological regime as well.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I know they are a very interesting thing. I think that is a great question, Michael. We talked a little bit about it in previous events, and I've always been a little bit curious to learn more. I do know that like my grandfather who lives in Holland has like many opinions on dikes and just how they really shaped in good and bad ways the land over there. But it definitely is something that I would love to learn more about, because I'm sure there are many positives, but also probably many negatives as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll be doing some more research myself, I guess. And again, thank you both very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we have so many different people that work at Wild Bird Trust, so I'll definitely pass that on to my other colleagues, and maybe we can get in contact and talk more. And yeah, so no, appreciate that.
This is Laurel. I have one more question.
Yeah.
I have become aware of stream keeping, and
Yes.
I was happy to hear you've got experience about that. How does that work together with the wetlands? Did they tie together?
Definitely, in a way, yes, for sure. So again, I'm no expert because I did it mainly when I was younger. But from my knowledge is that you join your local stream keepers, either organization or it's a group, and I know that you kind of divide up, or at least kind of divvy up which streams. If you live in maybe a certain area and you can check on one more often, you would check on that, but you don't just check on one area. So what my uncle does is he used to do stream keeping up here on the mountain, and he would start up on the mountain, and he would go to different spots. Now, it doesn't have to be on the same day, but he would go to different spots all along the same creek or stream and check it out. And of course, many, if not all of the creeks and streams that run down Burnaby Mountain, they lead to Burnaby Lake. So that was really important for him, is he would actually go down to Burnaby Lake on both sides, right? And check the water and take samples and all of that. And especially near the Brunette River as well, where that kind of leads as well. So I definitely think it has somewhat to do with the wetlands. Of course, many of our creeks, streams, rivers, they all lead to wetlands, whether that's lakes, oceans, larger rivers. So it is important, definitely, I think, to, if I was just interviewing my uncle a few days ago, because where Trans Mountain is, they've gotten rid of so many different trees that it's now affecting how fast the water flows down, right? And then if the water is flowing too fast, a lot of salmon eggs, when salmons go to lay their eggs in the streams, they get washed away. And unfortunately, when you cut down too many trees, in the summertime, there's not enough shade, there's not enough water retention, so it completely dries up the creeks, and that also hurts the salmon eggs. So it's kind of this huge like circle, like Alejandro was saying, where you affect one thing and it just kind of has this ripple effect, right? So yeah, it's definitely important. If you're interested, we're having a family day event. I think it's Monday. Oh, I can't remember, but it's coming up. I think 2 Mondays from now. And my uncle will be talking. So it's a free event, of course. Stay tuned on our Eventbrite, but he'll be definitely going in depth about stream keeping and the importance of it, right? For our eagles, our salmon, all kind of marine life. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think the what I would add is just like what you're going to do with this knowledge. What is your call for action? Are you going to learn more? Just Michael gave a really good example of what to do, and so he wants to learn more about dikes and the impact on wetlands. I think that's fantastic. That's one way of starting the conversation, is like being educate ourselves about our natural environment and the impact we are having on that natural environment, and also raising awareness. That's another way of, you know, like sharing our views or concerns about what's going on. We have to remember that wetlands are probably one of the most endangered ecosystems in the world, in the planet. And remember, they are the kidneys of the planet, and that kidney is endangered. And also another thing we can do is to support your local conservation organizations like the Wildlife Trust, for example, but there are many other, and they don't have to be wetlands, and they don't necessarily have to be like an environment, but, you know, supporting your community is also very important. And also finally, and this may not be the last one, but in my list probably, I would say just reach out to your politicians, the people who are in office just because they are there to serve us. They are our employees. So let them know what your concerns are, and share your solutions with those politicians. And I think that would be everything from my part.
Nice.
I don't know, Nicole, if you have more questions, or someone has more questions.
Nice, awesome. And if anyone does have questions, I always send out a follow-up email afterwards. So definitely keep your eye out for that. Should be coming through Eventbrite. And it'll have our email, so you can contact us. And of course, you can always follow up on Facebook or Instagram, anything like that. So yeah, well, a huge thank you to Alejandro. I really appreciate that. You were so good. I always learn something. It's a perk of the job. So a huge thank you to you, and a huge thank you to all of you guys, everyone who attended. It meant so much to us to host this event in celebration of World Wetlands Day. So I hope you all have an amazing evening. I hope to see you at future events, and so thank you so much.
Thank you. Gracias.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
Oh, I appreciate that.